Okay, can we build it? Yes, we can. So how's your Mishkan today? How's your tabernacle? Is your inner sanctuary clean and comfortable? Is it a master suite or a sparsely furnished spare room? Just adequate enough for the occasional visit when you're in trouble. This week is all about obeying Yahweh's instructions to the letter by building and maintaining a structure fit for him to inhabit. That's what all that scripture makes it clear. If you believe it when he says, if you do this, this and this, my Father and I will come and make our home with you. And we will leave the Ruach HaKodesh in your home, which is a temple. So our behaviour and the things that we do or don't do make a big difference about how comfortable he is in that temple. Because it was in the wilderness, it had to be mobile. It had to be packed up and moved. It wasn't static. It wasn't a stone temple. It had to be constructed of very specific materials in a very specific way. It wasn't just a meeting house for the Hebrew tribes. People think, oh, it was a place for them to sort of come and have the town meetings. No. It was actually built as a suitable dwelling place for Yahweh himself. And consequently, it had to contain equipment for every kind of service, including the menorah to shine light outwards, which is a symbol of his presence. It's also a symbol of the seven spirits that you read about in Revelation. He never designed something just for the sake of it. Every single one of those things is significant. Every single one of those things in that temple had a meaning, had a reason for being there. So, that's fine. That's history. What does it mean for us right now? What it means for us right now is we are his Mishkan, his temple. Because as he says in Acts, he doesn't live in man-made temples. And as Yeshua says in Yochanan, if someone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. And the point of that is he makes a home with us, not a B&B, not a backpacker, not a place to visit occasionally. He makes our home with us. Physically, it took 2 years to construct and consecrate the Mishkan. It was dedicated on the first day of the first month, which is Nisan, the second year, as they took time to prepare themselves and the tabernacle exactly according to the received plans. Then, and only then, could they follow the cloud of his presence as it finally lifted and moved on after Pesach on the 20th of the second month. Why? Because he has to make sure that we're prepared and ready to move on to the next stage of our journey before he will safely lead us to the next step. And a major part of that preparation is preparing his Mishkan, his temple, us, his tabernacle, making us holy, set apart, consecrated, and also make sure that we're not carrying excess baggage from the past. You have to get rid of all of that.
The word Kadosh, it's not just holy, it means set apart and undefiled by the world.
Exactly. That's right. Most people don't understand what the word holy means, but that's what it means. Set apart. Every one of those things in the Mishkan was ordered to be holy, to be set apart for his use. As firstborn, we're holy, we're set apart for his use. So remember, he wants all of the excess baggage left outside the door. And he'll get the bin men to come and collect it. He basically gives us an extreme makeover and totally declutters our lives. You know, you've seen these programs on TV about hoarders. So many of us have been hoarders of past hurts, past disappointments, past things that have happened in our lives. And the place is so full that even we can't move around it, let alone him. So he has to get rid of it all. He's preparing a master suite. It's called that because he's the master. So all of that rubbish has to go. You don't need it to be your security anymore. But notice that he states he will only accept what we are wholeheartedly or unconditionally willing to let go of. Unless you give things to him wholeheartedly, he doesn't want it. Yeshua said, "You didn't choose me, I chose you." So you've either got to accept that and commit 100% or not at all. 99% won't do. People say, and you say, no, you're not 100% committed. You're only part committed. And you give a little bit more and a little bit more, and you're so pleased with yourself. But he wants you 100% committed. Not anything less. And he makes it your choice. He chooses us, but it's our choice whether to follow or not. We also have to match the blueprints and materials that he specifies for our lives. He will specify the things that he wants. And he says, this is how to let my temple be constructed. I want this material used. I want those utensils there. I want all of these things in place. And until everything's the way he's planned it and he's designed it, it's not complete. He will do the building. He will do the renovation. You just have to be willing to let him. He actually states in Shemot or Exodus that Shabbat observance is not an optional choice, but it's actually a sign to us and to others that he has set it apart, and us, as a perpetual covenant. A gift from him for us. Not some random day that's just observed by us for him. We don't observe Shabbat for him. He gives us Shabbat for us.
Yeah.
It's an everlasting covenant. It's not an optional thing. Oh, any day will do, it doesn't matter. Yeah, for meetings, any day will do. But Shabbat is Shabbat. It's not optional.
There's so much that's in the imperative. There's so much that's in the imperative.
Yeah. Just as he positioned himself right slap bang in the centre of the camp within the Mishkan. You know, the Mishkan was in the centre of the camp, and then all the tribes were camped on the four sides. He positioned himself right in the centre of the camp. Just as he does now, he positions himself right in the middle of Israel. He does not hover on the edge of the camp. Get a decent. I know what I'll do. We'll move the Mishkan outside the camp so I can get some peace and quiet and sleep at night. No, he's right slap bang in the middle. What he's not doing is watching from a distance, as Cliff Richard wrongly sings. See, people believe that. From a distance. He's not doing anything from a distance. We're the ones that do things from a distance. So because he wants to be at the centre of our life, he wants to be at the centre of our temple, he does that so that we can relax and settle wherever he leads us, for as long as his presence is in place, cloud or fire. We do not have to constantly worry about where to go next or when it will happen. We don't have to be anxious for anything or fear anything. Forget the what ifs. All we have to do is to be simply obedient and follow his one day at a time plan. As you know, that's our plan here. We have the specific plan, no 5-year, no 10-year. We have the one day at a time plan. Anything else is arrogant. We can plan possibilities, but to actually put them into place, it's a one day at a time. And while we're doing that, we get on with life until He decides that it's time to get up and move. We don't have to worry about it. We'll know when it's time to get up and move because we'll see the cloud go up. We'll see His presence lift and get ready to move. Then, when He does, we will know that all we have to do is stay close and keep our eyes on His presence and then just follow it until He stops and says, this is it. And once we get there, then we can just carry out His plans. People forget sometimes the tribe sat for years. It wasn't always just for days. Sometimes it was for 2-3 years that they stayed in one place. He had a purpose for it. He didn't just think, I don't know, where are we going to take them next? They've been around this place before. This is the 5th time around this area. He put them in particular places to learn particular things. And sometimes it took him a while. How long you stay there often depends on you and your behaviour and your obedience. Yeah. We're not waiting for Him. He's waiting for us.
So then I remember you put the final page to the page you decide to leave.
I knew you were going to do that. I hate when that happens. I've just got this stew on. Following the wherever, whenever, whatever plan can only be accomplished through complete trust, obedience, and a total willingness to completely let go of our plans, our agenda, our to-do lists. How many people ever get through their to-do lists? All you finish up doing is writing more things on your to-do list. That makes you even more stressed. And then He comes along and says, get that out of the way. This is what I want you to do. We do this to continue on our own path. And when we continue on our own path, it's a clear signal that ahava, or unconditional love, hasn't yet been brought to maturity, as we discussed last week. How is it clear? In Torah it states, Yochanan, someone who doesn't love me doesn't keep my words. In other words, he's saying that if they don't love me, they don't keep my words, they are rebellious and disobedient. So how do we treat this Mishkan of ours? Do we make Abba feel at home? Does he feel comfortable? Or is he merely an occasional guest whenever we get lonely or desperate? What does he see through my eyes? What does he hear through my ears? What does he hear from my mouth? Where do I take him? Do I actually take him where he wants to go? Or do I take him sightseeing to impress him at the places where I want to go? And how do I manage the joint account that he shares with me? Particularly as he's the one that places all the finances and resources in that account. Did you know that once you've given everything to him, it becomes a joint account? You can't sign the cheque unless he signs it as well. Safety in that. Are we really committed to serving him, or are we actually expecting him to serve us? I listen to a lot of people's prayers, and what I hear is them wanting him to serve them, not the other way round. And demanding that he meets my expectations and my wants. We give him a shopping list. Tell me, The cloud is moving. Even now, even today, the cloud is lifting up and moving. The point is, will we follow it? From what I've observed, only a remnant will follow the cloud. The others are far too comfortable, far too settled. It's unreasonable to expect them to. Only those who are in a close personal relationship with Him have actually even noticed that the cloud is lifting and are willing to go further and deeper into the journey, leaving behind all the man-made traditions, all the man-made relationships, all the man-made ambitions, all of the unequally yoked relationships, and our own personal ambitions, ego, status, career, businesses, and many others of our safety nets. I mean, isn't it unreasonable of Him to actually ask us to give Him our safety nets? We need them. What would we do without our safety nets? We'd be insecure. Not if we put our trust in Him. He is our safety net. All these things need to be set aside for His purposes. They have to be willingly surrendered. Many have already responded. The people sitting here have responded. And many more will. The point is, we constantly have to challenge ourselves. Are we still fully committed to His purposes? It's time to catch up with the cloud of His presence. It's time to move quickly and not lose sight of it as it moves on. It won't wait for us. When His presence lifts and moves on, it will continue to move on. It's our job to follow it or not. Yeshua was very, very specific and crystal clear when He challenged His Talmudim to freely choose a Metidyahu and told them to leave everything behind and follow Him. They had full choice at that stage. They walked up and said, "We'll come with you." And He said, "Then leave everything and everybody behind and follow me." These guys were businessmen, they were fishermen. They made a good living. They were respected in the community. They were following somebody they knew very little about at the time. They had to do it based purely on trust and purely on listening to the Ruach HaKodesh. And then a rich young man was challenged to do the same thing in Mark 10. And what did he choose? He chose to walk away. It's much harder when you've got a lot to say yes. But he didn't just walk away, he was shocked at the price he was being asked to pay. He basically said, "Give it all away to the poor." What is this guy, a communist? He'd never have made it in America. So he was shocked at the price he was being asked to pay, and he was unwilling to surrender both his status and his wealth. And a lot of people want Yeshua, but they won't give up their status or their wealth.
It's hard to believe that status and wealth is nothing.
That's right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Remember, redemption's free. Everybody loves redemption, it's free. But following Him as a Talmud will cost you everything. Only redemption is free. Everything else costs you everything. Why? Because when we let it go, it all becomes His. And He will challenge you with His plans to distribute it. Like I said, He has to sign the cheque as well. Or sometimes He just wants to jointly manage it with you. He gets to co-sign all the cheques. And He also gets to design and choose what you put in His temple. You're not yours anymore, you're His. He decides what He wants in His master suite. We can't just carry on living life and putting in it whatever we feel like. It's His temple, it's His tabernacle. And Vayikra, or Leviticus, makes it absolutely clear that just like Noah and the ark, the contents to be put in it are not based purely on Jewish customs or any other human regulations. It's all about clean versus unclean. As it was in the ark, it is in the temple. It's about putting clean things in and not unclean things. We don't decide what we put in the temple, He does. It's His. So is your Mishkan due for an inspection? Or even a makeover? Do your foundations need examining? Do you need spiritual earthquake strengthening? How about your structural integrity? Is it time to remove or replace some items that are starting to become just a little bit threadbare and worn? Maybe it's time to call in the Ruach HaKodesh and ask him to do what he does best and schedule a renovation. Of course, whatever we choose to do is between us and Yahweh. Why? Because there's no longer any condemnation awaiting those who are in union with the Messiah Yeshua. Any of these messages that I bring are to encourage, not discourage. If they discourage, then I'm not doing my job. It's here to encourage us to do more, to go further, to not settle. If the cloud's lifting, we need to lift. Torah is of the Spirit, and Spirit produces this life that set me free. But surely obedience is better than sacrifice. So many times we think we're obeying and we're actually sacrificing. We're trying to please Him. Abba doesn't want us to do that. He wants us to follow His plan, His way. Not come up with something that we think is better. Can you imagine designing and planning a simple dwelling place and issuing instructions to the builders, and then when you come back discovering that they stuck a multi-storey hotel on the plot? How pleased were you going to be? Particularly when they give you the bill. And then even worse, discovering that because they didn't follow your plan, there's no planning permission. What happens to buildings that don't have planning permission? They're built on sand. So many people have built magnificent mansions and they've got no planning permission, and they're going to have to come down. Just because the builders thought that they would be more impressive, and so ignored the brief and decided to do it for you instead of with you. And so many times we do things for Yahweh instead of with Him. He wants us to do things with Him, not for Him. So the builder decided he knew best. But it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. Not meant to be. You're just meant to listen to it and obey it. Man's wisdom is nonsense. Many of us behave the same way towards Yahweh at times, when all He asks and requires is cooperation, mutual trust and obedience. So Shalom, she puts Mezan, renovation project, Shalom.